Hello, in this video we'll be looking at George Berkeley's refutation of the existence of the material world or of any matter. Berkeley doesn't raise doubts about the existence of matter, he categorically denies the possibility of its existence. For him, matter necessarily doesn't exist, and he follows a rigorous logical system to get to his subjective idealism. First, he starts by attacking an age-old theory held by many philosophers, and it is the substratum theory. According to it, there are two levels of reality to any object of the world. There is number one, its bundle of properties, and this bundle of properties is accessible to us through our senses or through reflection. Then there is number two, its underlying substratum. For example, this is a pen, and it is given to me in the form of a bundle of properties. I can see that it is an extended thing, I can measure how long it is, I can see that it is in a certain shape, and I can feel its texture. I can also reflect upon its use. It can certainly be used to write, to draw, or to doodle. According to the substratum theory, there is another level of reality that is not accessible to me. It is what this pen really is underneath its collection of properties. So theoretically, if there was a way to peel off, like you would do with an orange, its bundle of properties, you would discover the reality of this pen. Berkeley disputes this idea, and he says that the bundle of properties is not attached to anything. There is no underlying substratum. All the objects of the world we deal with are vacuous ideas conjured into existence by perception. Hence, to be is to be perceived, esse est percipe. Berkeley says that the idea of an underlying material substratum is accepted but not accounted for. There is no proof that there really is a material substratum to which is attached a bundle of sensory properties. He says that we experience the objects of the world through a collection of ideas and nothing more. Hence, ideas are the building blocks of reality. There are no underlying substrata. Every object of the world is an object I know of through a mental state, through an idea. Based on this, reality is made of two things, spirits and ideas, and by spirits Berkeley means agents or minds endued with a sensory apparatus. By ideas he means the objects of the world which lack any material substrata and which are conjured by the spirits. Every experience of reality is reducible to a sensation. So when I say that there is a pen in my hand, there is a bundle of ideas that come to my mind about the pen. There is no material reality of any pen. If I could peel off the bundle of properties, I would find nothing. Before Berkeley, Descartes and Locke established that the objects of the world had two types of qualities, primary qualities and secondary qualities. Primary qualities refer to shape, size and movement. Secondary qualities refer to color, taste, smell and texture. Berkeley would attempt to prove that both types of qualities are mind-dependent. In an essay entitled An Essay Towards a New Theory of Vision, Berkeley says that what we see is not what there is. What we see consists of color and light. When you walk in the street, you rely on your senses to know where the walls are, where the walking paths are, and you smell odors, and some of them are good, some of them are nasty, but in reality none of this exists outside the mind, or at least exists in the same way the common person thinks they exist. The eyes perceive colours, but the colours don't exist as such. The olfactory system perceives smells, but odours don't exist as they perceived. Animals can perceive many more colours than humans do. Colourblind humans perceive less colours than other humans do. Berkeley says that there is no proof that there are any mind-independent objects in the world. Note that Berkeley is an empiricist, so he believes that all knowledge is acquired through the senses. Based on this premise, how can we know that anything happens outside the information that our senses create in our minds? Let's try to agree on a couple of things. All the properties we perceive of an object are communicated to us through our senses. I think we can't object to that. So people who lack a sense or more would perceive the same object differently. For a person who can't see, a tomato is something that feels a certain way, that smells a certain way, but is not red. Similarly, a being that has more senses than we humans do would perceive the same object differently. The only properties we perceive of an object are the ones that are perceptible through our senses. Okay? The second thing we can agree on is that our perception of an object is reducible to a bundle of qualities. We touch a surface and it's either cold or hot or fluffy or electric or harsh or any one of the many things that skin allows us to feel. Hence, what we perceive are bundles of sensory qualities. I think we can easily agree on that too. A further step would be to investigate whether those sensory qualities exist in external objects or in the mind of the perceiver. Berkeley gradually tries to prove that they they exist in the mind of the perceiver, and he starts with two concepts, pain and pleasure. It is not hard to demonstrate that pain and pleasure are not properties of objects. Pain and pleasure are mind-dependent. When you touch a live naked electric wire and you feel pain, pain is not a property of the wire. And when you're hungry and eat some delicious food, you feel pleasure, but pleasure is not a property of the food. You can eat that same food when you're full and not feel any pleasure. These examples clearly show that pain and pleasure are not properties of things. Pain and pleasure are mind-dependent. Next, Berkeley would try to show that all other sensory inputs that we perceive is like pain and pleasure. It all exists only in the perceiver's mind. His next target is heat, cold and warmth, and he says that a bucket of warm water would feel cold to one person, hot to another and warm to a third person. If you keep your hand in a fridge or in a freezer for some time, then you dip your hand in a bucket of warm water, you'd find the water hot. Someone else has been sticking a hand somewhere hot for some time, would dip a hand in the bucket and feel the same water to be cold. This is what is termed perceptual relativity. In this case, is the water independently cold, warm or hot? The same water is all those things to different people, or even to the same person in different situations. Hence, this property is not a property of the object. This property is mind-dependent. At this point, Berkeley considers that he has proven that secondary qualities are mind-dependent. Now we'll see his refutation of primary qualities, and he uses perceptual relativity to argue that primary qualities are the same as secondary qualities. They too are mind-dependent. And his first argument is that we can't conceive of primary qualities isolated from secondary qualities. For example, we can't think of shape without color. And since he's established that secondary qualities are mind-dependent, the same thing would be true for primary qualities. Shape is dependent on the perceiver. Our appraisal of movement is relative to moving objects are perceived to move quicker or slower by different perceivers. All this shows that everything about the objects of the world is mind-dependent. What we're dealing with are ideas, not mind-independent entities. There are three ways humans acquire knowledge: direct sensation through the sensory apparatus, reflection, and recollection of past sensations. And none of these happens outside the mind. They are all mind-dependent. Now, the objects of the world pop into existence due to my perception of them. This is the essence of subjective idealism's motto, to be is to be perceived, esse est percipe. Based on this, if I die, will the objects that I perceive cease to exist? Berkeley's answer is no, because even if all the minds of the world die, the objects of the world will not cease to exist, because they'll still be perceived by the Supreme Spirit, God. So what is Berkeley's idea of God? For Berkeley, God exists necessarily, because otherwise how do we have all these ideas in our minds, and how do our minds conjure sensations? I have the ability to perceive the objects of the world, but how I perceive them is not something that I control. There must be a reason why I perceive the objects of the world the way I perceive them, with the rigorous regularity that I perceive them. So when I wake up, open my eyes and see a darkish bedroom, I have no choice on how these ideas are given to me. The regularity of perception, the order and harmony of perception are all the works of an intelligent, powerful being. In this system, there is no direct causation between secondary causes and their effects. All there are ideas and minds. There is debate as to whether Berkeley believes in occasionalism or in something more akin to Leibniz's preset harmony. I have uploaded a video on occasionalism that you can watch if you want, and I'll put its link in the description of this video. Berkeley says that the belief in the existence of a material world poses a lot of problems. It would limit God's dominion over the world, because if there is a material world that has its own laws, then God wouldn't be able to operate against these laws. The concept of a material world would also revive the question of how can something immaterial affect something material. It would point the finger at the biggest unknown in Descartes' dualism. Berkeley believes that his subjective idealism solves all these problems. It doesn't require any postulation about the existence of any material substratum, and it reinstates God as the creator of everything. Berkeley believes that his system is commonsensical. Some of the criticism directed at Berkeley's subjective idealism holds it to lead to solipsism, because if there is no matter in the world, and if all reality is constructed in the mind, then how can I know that I am not the only person in the world and that everything else is but the creation of my mind? Berkeley responds to that by saying that his system is the opposite of solipsism. The physical world does exist, it is the material world that does not exist. The world is populated by spirits or minds that all have the ability to conjure reality into existence with rigorous regularity, and this attests to the power of the Supreme Spirit. Now this video, or the conjured idea of this video, has reached its end. Until we meet again, have a great day.